Ladies and gentlemen, imagine someone you followed, someone who once stood in the spotlight, someone whose every move was tracked, every post liked, every word quoted, vanishing into complete silence. No warning, no message, no digital trail, gone for 6 long months. And then just when the world had moved on, she came back, but not as the person she used to be. No, she came back with something so unexpected, so powerful, so unexplainably real. It shook even the most logical minds. Because what she did next wasn't just bold, it was backed by something that rewrote what we thought we knew about science, faith, and the very fabric of our universe. This isn't just a comeback story, it's a revelation. And what you're about to hear might just challenge everything you've believed up until now. So lean in, don't blink. And whatever you do, watch till the end, because the truth she discovered would change your life too. She disappeared and the world didn't even know what to think. One moment she was there, active, admired, vibrant, and then she was just gone. No warning, no farewell message, not even a subtle post to hint at what was to come. She dropped off the face of the digital planet and it shook her circle of followers, friends, and even distant observers. People began to wonder. Some whispered about burnout, others speculated about emotional collapse, a few even spread outrageous theories of kidnapping, secret rehab, secret marriage, you name it, but the truth was deeper. What the world saw as silence was actually a divine retreat, a deliberate vanishing act, not to hide from life, but to find it. Because when the noise of the world becomes louder than the voice inside, sometimes you have to step away to hear the truth clearly. That's what she did. In a time when everyone posts everything, when disappearing means becoming irrelevant, she took a step no influencer, no celebrity, no scientist, no thinker had the courage to take. She disconnected from everyone, from everything. And the decision wasn't impulsive. It wasn't a breakdown. It was a breakthrough. While people thought she was losing herself, she was actually about to find the very thing they couldn't give her: clarity. She didn't post cryptic stories. She didn't send scheduled tweets to keep her presence alive. She didn't check notifications. In fact, she turned her phone off and locked it away. For 6 entire months, she disappeared from all platforms, conversations, engagements, projects, and noise. But what she did next would leave the world speechless. You see, behind closed doors, she began a journey, one that wasn't physical, but spiritual, one that wasn't broadcasted, but burned into her soul. This wasn't about healing with crystals, journaling in the woods, or sipping herbal tea on a retreat. She went deeper than self-care. She dove into the very depths of knowledge, ancient knowledge, that most dismiss as myth, metaphor, or misplaced mysticism. She opened a book the world often misquotes, misjudges, and misunderstands: the Quran. Now, why would a young woman, educated in science, versed in logic, respected for her intelligence, turn to a 1,400-year-old scripture that most people think belongs to deserts and history books? That's what makes this story different. Because what she found inside that book didn't match the narratives she had grown up with. What she found there shocked even her skeptical mind. And so she did what few would dare. She didn't just read it passively. She studied it, line by line, translation by translation, diving into the original Arabic, comparing it with verified scientific discoveries. She cross-checked its verses with medical journals, NASA reports, geological surveys, oceanography records, and embryological diagrams. She treated it like a thesis, like a case, like a forensic puzzle. And the silence the world thought was loneliness became the very atmosphere where revelation occurred, because what she discovered flipped her entire view of reality. There were verses in that book, written in the 7th century, that described the development of the human embryo with such precision. Scientists in the 21st century were only now beginning to fully understand the terminology. Words like a leech-like clot, describing the clinging of the embryo to the uterine wall. Before microscopes, before anatomy labs, before modern medicine. Then she read verses speaking about the expanding universe. Centuries before Edwin Hubble looked into his telescope, she read of the ocean's internal waves and barriers where two seas meet but do not mix. something no sailor, no traveler, no philosopher could have ever observed without modern equipment. But it wasn't just the verses, it was how those verses sat calmly in a book that made no claims other than to be a divine message for mankind. There were no corrections, no revisions, no contradictions between verse and verified fact. And that shook her to her core. Because suddenly the image of the Quran being anti-science, anti-progress, anti-intellect, it shattered. What replaced it was a realization that while the world was racing toward AI, VR, and digital gods, the truth had been sitting silently in plain sight, ignored, unwrapped, unopened. The first month of her disappearance, she cried. Not because she was in pain, but because the veil was lifting. She remembered sitting in school, being taught theories as facts, being told religion was for the weak and that science had all the answers. And yet here was a book that had no author except the one who created the very laws of physics, giving answers that science was only now beginning to catch up to. She wasn't abandoning science. She was completing it, aligning it with its source. She once believed you had to choose between logic and belief. Now she saw the Quran asked you to think, to reflect, to observe, to measure, and then believe based on evidence. People around her had been obsessing over fame, fashion, fortune. She had too, but now she was obsessed with truth, with clarity, with meaning. She didn't just study, she prayed. For the first time in her life, she felt like she wasn't praying to the ceiling, but speaking to the source of all creation. She didn't hear voices. She heard silence, but a silence that shook her, that moved her, that answered her. She had met the truth in a world of lies, and now she had to live with the consequences of that encounter. So for 6 months, while the world scrolled, clicked, and judged, she transformed. Her skin changed, her eyes softened, her confidence wasn't louder, it was quieter, but stronger. She didn't return with a press conference or an announcement. She didn't market her transformation, she just walked back into the world and stood still. And when she spoke, people stopped breathing. Because now, when she talked, she didn't speak from ego, she spoke from evidence, from experience, from truth. She didn't talk about what she thought, she talked about what she knew, and the world noticed. Those who doubted her came with sarcasm, but when she opened her mouth, they went silent. Because she spoke of things they couldn't deny, of science that matched scripture, of facts that came before the instruments, of divine verses that predated every so-called discovery, and it shook them. Not because she was loud, but because she was accurate. And that's the point. Her disappearance wasn't weakness, it was war. A war against distraction, misinformation, and self-deception. And she won, quietly, powerfully, truthfully. And now she stands, not with a crown or a mic, but with a message. The world's been looking for answers in a million places, but refuses to look where the answers already exist. She did. And what she found in the Quran didn't enslave her, it liberated her. It didn't chain her thoughts. It challenged them, expanded them, empowered them. And the silence that once scared her became the stage for her rebirth. So now you know she wasn't running away. She was running towards something far more powerful than applause, attention, or accolades. In a world that teaches us to chase validation, she chose revelation. She traded the noise for knowledge. And in doing so, she uncovered a truth that science itself is only beginning to acknowledge, that the Quran is not a relic of the past, but a roadmap for the future. A book not only of guidance, but of precision, of truth, of depth beyond this world. Her silence was never absence, it was presence. The kind of presence that comes only when a soul aligns with its purpose. And when she reemerged, she didn't just shock the world, she changed it simply by standing firm in a truth too many are too afraid to seek. She's not just back, she's awake. And now, maybe, just maybe, it's your turn to disappear from the world long enough to finally meet yourself and the truth that's been waiting for you all along. Thank you for staying through this journey, because this wasn't just her story. It was a reflection of what could be your story too. May you have the courage to pause, to question, to explore what lies beneath the surface. Good luck on your path. May truth find you, and may you find the strength to embrace it when it does. Keep seeking, keep rising, and remember, sometimes disappearing is the first step to awakening.